Welcome to the CU 2.0 podcast.
Hi, and welcome to the CU 2.0 podcast with big new ideas about credit unions and conversations about innovative technology with credit union and fintech leaders. This podcast is brought to you by Quillo, the real-time loan syndication network for credit unions, and by your host, longtime credit union and financial technology journalist Robert McGarvey. And now, the CU 2.0 podcast with Robert McGarvey.
Today, Andrea Argueta is Director of Financial Institution Advisory at Glia, a company that focuses on providing credit unions and banks digital customer service tools. Nowadays, that means AI. This show's focus is on, you guessed it, AI. Note too that Glia's tools are at work in some 400 credit unions, making Glia very probably the largest provider of AI tools to credit unions. Importantly, too, Argueta knows credit unions. That's because before coming to Glia, she served as COO at Washington, D.C.-based IDB Global Federal Credit Union, an institution that serves the employees of the Inter-American Development Bank. And there are members in over 75 countries. At IDB Global, she was a Glia customer. Eventually, that evolved into her joining the Glia team. In the show, she tells about that journey. She also offers insights into what AI is really doing for credit unions today, and also about the smart way for a credit union to join this party. The party's on, it's lively, you got to get in it. In the show, mention is made of two prior appearances on the show by Glia executives, Glia CEO Dan McKaylee in 2020 and Jake Tyler a year ago. Links to those episodes are in the show notes. Listen up. We're going to talk about Glia, AI, and credit unions.
Yes, we are.
5 years ago, Dan McKaylee was on this show.
Oh, yeah?
And he was not talking about AI 5 years ago. A year ago, Jake Tyler was on this show, and he was talking about AI. So the question for you is, what's different today with Glia, AI, and credit unions?
Yeah, I think, first of all, AI has really evolved overall, right? And so consumers are really just exposed to it. But I think in the credit union world specifically, I would say that the number of organizations that are using it now to support their member service strategy has really taken off. I would say that they're actively looking for partners that can help them roll out AI in a responsible way.
So specifically, what are they doing with AI that Glia is involved in?
Yeah, so they are using AI for having intelligent banking interactions, and they're automating routine work, elevating the complex work. So it really helps empower those frontline teams to spend less time on, those administrative tasks and basic requests, so they can really focus on what matters, which, is really deepening those member relationships and fueling growth.
So more specifically, what are you talking about? Describe a particular concrete application.
Yeah, so they will have AI to support the entire banking interaction for member service. So when someone calls in at a credit union contact center or engages with their credit union through digital channels like chat, Glia can help automate around, I want to say 60% of the interactions to completely have the member get member service through AI workforce. And then for those interactions that require a human being, the bot can seamlessly transition to a human and give them context about the interaction and help them with internal AI tools elevate the interaction and also just become more efficient. And then, as we know, that the interaction doesn't end there because there's a lot of work that management and leadership do from there. So we support those roles as well with AI in reporting, in QA, workforce planning, and also just getting more intelligence about the interactions themselves. So, and we also integrate to voice solutions, digital channels, and just provide AI for all of those interactions there.
Roughly how many credit unions does Glia work with, and what's the size range of them?
So I would say we support credit unions of all shapes and sizes. I would say that we are supporting around now, I would say closer to 700 financial institutions.
So, and of that 700, I assume that includes banks too.
Correct.
All right. And roughly how many credit unions in the 700?
I would say 60% of that would be credit unions.
Okay, so we're talking 400, something like that.
Yeah. hmm
That's certainly that's 10% of the credit union population. That's not a bad chunk. It's
Yeah, I would say that Glia is the leading AI platform for intelligent banking interactions for sure. Because, when we see the number of credit unions that are launching AI each week, I mean, I can definitely see that the adoption is high, especially compared to a couple of years ago.
oh, absolutely. It's with credit unions. I pity the poor vendors who are trying to sell something other than AI because the word on every lips in the C-suite in credit unions and all throughout the top executive ranks is AI, AI, AI. And they
Yeah.
don't know what the hell they're talking about most of the time. And that's okay. They want someone to educate them. Most of them realize they don't know what they're talking about. So, but AI is the thing. And no, I don't got time. I don't got time to talk about this other thing. Come back next year. So
Yeah.
it's,
But you bring up a great point. I feel like right now AI is new, right? So everyone's trying to educate themselves on AI and building their AI strategy and their AI policies. And I think one thing I really valued from Glia, because I used to be a customer before I worked for them directly, but it's just the resources that they make available to their customers. And so, what does that look like in the AI era is that they have AI workshops, AI strategy support, conversational consultants to help credit unions build their AI workforce. And so it's not just the technology, but it's also the resources to build the strategy to execute successfully and roll something out that's safe and just responsible for financial institutions.
so what's the difference between Glia's tools and competitor tools?
So I would say, first of all, we're really focused on security. I know that rolling out AI for financial institutions is very different than for other industries, right? We really want to keep our data secure, and we also want to make sure that the outputs are accurate. And so I think Glia has done a really good job of allowing credit unions to insert human judgment at the right place. That's one of the things that stand out to me. The other one is, I would say, how they're thinking about the strategy holistically. They're not thinking about AI in specific parts of the journey, but they're thinking about the entire journey and how to support all the stakeholders. Another thing I would say too is just the lift that it takes to build some of these AI tools is pretty high, right? And for credit unions, we don't, and I speak like I'm still in the movement because I'm supporting the movement, but just thinking back in my credit union days, I would say that, sometimes the resources are limited and we're competing with large banks and now even fintechs that have a lot of additional resources. So we really need to be thoughtful about it. And so I think Glia has taken upon themselves to really reduce the lift for credit unions. So they have taken upon themselves to build about 800, I think now it's close to 1,000 user goals. And when we say user goals is our, you know, reasons why they're reaching out to a credit union and where they need support. So they've thought about these for specifically for credit unions and the 10,000 different ways these questions can be asked. And from there, they've built a platform where credit unions can easily come and just produce responses for these using AI as well. So
What credit union did you work at?
I used to work for IDB Global Federal Credit Union. It's here in Washington, D.C. And I like to say it was one of the healthiest credit, I think the healthiest credit union in Washington, D.C.
Healthy as measured how?
Well, it actually was named as the healthiest credit union in Washington, D.C. based on just its finance and growth.
Cool. And what were you doing at that credit union?
So I was their COO. What was unique about this credit union is that we cater to employees of an international organization that had offices in 75 countries around the world. And so we had to really be thoughtful about our just technology strategy and just our innovation, right? Because we had to service members all around the world with only one branch. So we were just trying to make sure that we kept up with technology to service members everywhere, really anytime, anywhere.
That's a big challenge. So a lot of credit unions. But that
Yes.
means you'd have to be able to move money to something like 75 countries around the world. It's and that's interesting. Most credit unions would run to the exit door, even hearing that. Well, you have to move money to these 75 countries, half of which you've never heard of. So it's
Right.
wow. And no, that's an interesting challenge. Let's play a game here. I'm a credit union customer. I'm calling up my credit union, and you're gonna be the Glia bot responding, not a person. Okay.
Okay.
Why is there a hold on this check I deposited 2 days ago?
Is there a way for me to like provide you an example?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So let's say someone calls for a travel notice because they are going to go on vacation and they reach out to the credit union. One thing that they can do is they can be very specific to say, hey, I need a travel notification, but usually members don't speak that way, right? They don't work at a credit union. And so they can reach out to the credit union and say, hey, I'm going to Paris next week. The bot knows what to answer. They know that this member needs a travel notification and they start assisting them with it. They can handle that and provide all the information that they need in case where they ask for something else, where they need a human being, the bot can then transfer them seamlessly to a human being. And so one of the problems that we solve, which I think a lot of people that I talk to, they're still thinking this way, is, 5 years ago or 10 years ago when we were trying to use AI for customer service and we were always screaming, agent, agent, because we were trying to get out of the loop. They can't help us. And we have to start the conversation all over again or call a different number or use a completely different channel. The bot now within Glia can seamlessly transition to an agent. In fact, we have a really good strategy. We want to have really good AI human balance. And so we've determined, what interactions are really good for AI to automate and which ones we rather transition to a human being. And so one example is like if someone is experiencing fraud or a member passed away and their family member needs to talk about the account, those are situations where you definitely don't want AI to handle the interaction. Or if someone's looking for a thorough product consultation, that's where we probably want a human being to be on the phone or on the digital channel having that conversation. And so that's where the bot is able to really automate these basic routine questions to free up the time for agents to have the conversations that really matter.
Well, I think AI has a tremendous role to play, not just at credit unions, but also banks, where my understanding is something like 90% of the inquiries are routine matters. What's my balance? What's my credit limit? Can you raise my credit limit? Yeah, this is all routine stuff, basically. And on those rare occasions when a human being is needed, it's rare, really, I think. Now, how do you load the information into the Glia machine? Because it's going to vary a little bit from credit union to credit union. There'll be some constant points, I'm sure, but
We've built a really good platform, and I think that's something that makes a difference within Glia as well, is that we have a platform where you can manage your AI workforce. And we make it really easy to update some of these answers. We actually have, like I mentioned to you, conversational consultants that will provide, direction on which answers to roll out first. But we have in this platform have inserted AI in addition to some responses already that you can edit. There's also ways to upload documentation. If you also build a bot for, let's say, within online banking, you can easily reuse some of the work that you've done to now roll it out on the voice side. So that's one thing I like to call out because I think when you're looking to partner with, an AI company, you want to make sure that you can really have a comprehensive member service strategy instead of building, siloed, standalone bots that don't speak to each other. In fact, I like to think that at Glia, we have the opportunity to kind of build the member service excellence program as we build our AI strategy, because you get to build the responses for the bot, build responses for agents, and then also help the manager. So you're really thinking about the entire member service holistically.
Now, a year ago, Glia was pretty primarily almost exclusively focused on AI in the call center. Is that still true?
Yeah, so we are really focused on voice AI because that's where a lot of the opportunity exists, right? For automation and to get a lot of the value. When we look at the number of interactions that are happening at the contact center, they're pretty high and they continue to grow. So yes, Glia is focused on providing voice AI. We also are able to support that on digital channels like chat.
Do you use voice for authentication?
Yes, we do as well. We do support that.
Now, this gets a little technical. And I don't know the answer. So now I've done 500 podcasts. Any criminal in the world could get my voice and do a really pretty good job of imitating my voice. I mean, this would be pretty simple. There's thousands of hours of me talking. It's how can you distinguish between me and the recordings of me?
So we provide a platform that allows you to have different security tools. I like to think that we help with fraud prevention as well. And we have some really interesting stories of how we've done that. But yes, voice is a part of it, right? There's voice biometrics, but there's also visibility into, if you're logged in with an online banking, we can see that and we can even bring some attributes from that to, verify your identity. We can also see on the map potentially where you're at. And so if this is, let's say it's a credit union that's local to a specific community, but we see someone, overseas that is reaching out, that's a point of information. We can also use live observation tools to see, how they're navigating within your website or within, if they're truly within online banking or not. We can also use the video function to have that, turn on video, ask the visitor to turn on video. And that's super interesting because we've had some cases where we've helped with prevent wire fraud or even elderly abuse as well. So I wouldn't say voice is just one piece of information. I think the platform helps combine the different types of information to verify a member. And kind of like, when we're doing the verification method that includes in-wallet and out-of-wallet questions, I like to think that that's what we're replicating, but just with different channels and different data points.
So at the credit union where you were employed, what did you use Glia for?
So I actually purchased Glia during the pandemic to stand up our contact center because our building kind of shut down with, 36 hours worth of notice. And so try to stand up our contact center, but also have the ability to grow for digital channels. This was, back in 2020. And then also in the future, be able to bring some AI for automation. And so it allowed me to really have one partner for all of the member service channels that I needed at the time and for the future.
And that gives you some credibility since you were a customer who actually paid money to Glia. So
yes, we used it. I love that we used it for different use cases. We had, obviously the contact center on it. We had the loan teams on it, card services. We had, anyone that really spoke to a member was on Glia. And then later we were planning to automate with AI, which I know that when I was heading out, that was one of the last projects, but the team is now actively working on that.
now you'll know because of your credit union experience. Unlike banks, credit unions are really, really skittish about the idea of reducing the workforce because of new technology. They just hate that idea. It's
Yeah.
whereas JP Morgan Chase does cartwheels at the, oh, this is exciting.
Yeah.
It's a good thing. And does that question come up in discussions with credit unions before they roll out the product? In other
Yes.
words, are we going to get rid of 10 people and what do we do with them? But
It definitely comes up, and I like for them to think about it very differently. At credit unions, we don't have all the resources, to your point, that other banks might have. And so we need to be really thoughtful about how we're using our human resources. And so I like to think that it frees up their time to actually focus on what's important. And we get to choose, how do we reallocate these resources? Like, do we reallocate for a different project, right? Do other teams need these resources? Do we, reinvest it in other areas of the business? I've heard even it's so cool. We were talking to this credit union and we were kind of taking a deeper dive on why they are losing members. And they were talking about how they don't have as many ATMs as they need to, and they haven't implemented Zelle. And so when we did the ROI calculations of using AI to automate a lot of their call volume and what that meant for the team, they could actually use that either to reallocate for another team or fund those ATMs or potentially, implement the Zelle that they needed and to continually drive that growth for eventually, they need it. But in other areas, it's looked like they can, reallocate the team for either lending purposes, or the same team stays on, but they're training them to now focus on generating leads, right? So talking to members about different products, growth products. And so I would say that it's not just reducing the workforce. That could be one way if that's exactly what they're looking for, but they can reallocate those resources or reinvest them in other areas. That's how I like them to think about it. And now we actually encourage them to do so as part of their business case.
Starting about a year ago, as I said earlier, I heard from credit union people, AI, AI, AI. And I would ask, well, what are you doing with AI? Looking into it.
Yeah.
What does that mean? Does that mean you're playing with ChatGPT? Uh-huh. Okay. So in other words, they weren't actually using AI as a business tool. Well, maybe to answer emails they didn't want to bother answering personally, but that was about the extent of it.
Yeah.
Are they diving into the deep ends of the pool or into the shallow end of the pool when they begin with Glia?
I would say it's more the deep end. Just to give you some context, like we've had organizations, I can give you some examples. For example, Service First Federal Credit Union used voice AI to handle routine inquiries, and they freed up, let's say, 37% of their fully handled 30% of their calls were fully handled by voice AI, and that freed up their team, and that resulted in a 21% increase in loan dollars from the digital center in the first half of 2025. So that was, they got immediate results. Also, we had Granite CU, they opened 4 new branches without adding headcount by deploying Glia Voice and Glia Digital. And they also saw that the English language digital virtual assistant contained 55% of their inquiries, while their Spanish one contained 81% of the inquiries. So now they were having a bigger outreach to different communities with the AI. And, we also have another example of Azura Credit Union who reduced wait times by 50% and cut abandonment rates to less than 1%. So they can focus on building those relationships. And so I think these are examples of how they are really incorporating this into their strategy. I think what you described as, using AI for emails is kind of different than actually coming in and using it for a strategy to really free up resources and drive growth. To me, that's more of
Oh,
that.
I totally agree with you. I think AI is wonderful to use for emails, but that's not what I want to talk about in terms of credit unions and how AI is changing the business. It's great to do, but it's not a fundamental change in my mind. Whereas when you're giving member relation responsibilities to a machine, that's a fundamental change. That's interesting. And when the machine can do it better than the person, that's even more interesting. So,
Yeah, I think some tasks they can do better, like those routine ones, like and better means that they can fully take care of that, right? But there are interactions where you definitely need that human aspect. And I like to think that if you use AI, you make your personalized member service that you're known for more accessible to more people. So you're not replacing it. I think you're just making it more accessible, which is, I think, what makes credit unions so different from completely digital fintech or a large bank, right? So if anything, I feel like it's making what differentiates a credit union more accessible.
it's not a Glia product, but a competitive product.
Right.
It's told me that they one use case, they were reducing member wait times on hold on customer service calls, member service center calls by some staggering, like 50%, 60%. Because you call in with a fairly complicated question. Historically, the rep will say, "Okay, I'll get back to you. I have to talk to somebody about this." So they'll call that person now and then sit on hold before they actually talk to the person. It goes back and forth. So I'm sitting there for like 8 minutes or something, probably cursing, and then the person comes on and answers the question. And this company said they were cutting that down to like 3 minutes, some number like that, some staggering reduction, because everything was loaded into the machine. You didn't need to consult an expert. Follow me there?
Yes.
And I assume your technology does pretty much the same thing. I'm not saying you eliminate all calls to experts. They're going to be, how do I, transfer money to this account in Kazakhstan? I don't know, man.
Yeah.
Let's get our Kazakhstan expert on the line. So,
Yeah. Yeah. We definitely support in, just automating that part, but also when there's an agent involved, helping them access the information quicker and just making them a lot more efficient for sure.
where do you see this AI thing going in credit unions? I mean, what kind of rate of change do you anticipate?
Yeah, I would like to say that, or just share that what I'm seeing right now, the rate of adoption, I think it's going to become just a fundamental part of how we do business. I think in a couple of years, most credit unions will have AI workforce. So right now, I think it's more about not if we're going to do AI, but when and how. And I
Oh,
think,
it's to me, this is analogous. This is before you were born, but it was analogous to when computers rolled into credit unions
yes,
approximately 45 years ago. And at first there were people saying, "Oh, no, 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 my HP adding machine does a really great job. I don't need a computer." But within 5 years, that war was no longer remembered that anybody even fought it. It's
yeah.
And I
Hmm.
think that we're going to see the same thing with AI, not necessarily in every part of the organization, but in a lot of parts of the organization. It's
Correct.
5 years from now, people are going to say, there was a time before we used AI.
Yes, I think that's going to allow just our credit unions to be, you know, more agile in terms of how they provide services and how they can provide the service that they're known for. Because I think that's what differentiates our credit unions the most, right? And so, how do we compete with these larger banks if we have more time to do that?
Well, actually, that's the scary question I keep asking people. So I'll ask you. It's banks like JP Morgan, Chase, and B of A are throwing uncountable amounts of money at AI, just vast amounts of money. How can credit unions stay competitive against that huge bankroll?
I think it's choosing not to build right now, but rather who to partner with.
Oh,
And
nobody I'm talking to is actually building anything other than trivial stuff. And well, people are using Claude to build things, but even that is fairly esoteric.
right, but I think some don't see it that way. Like what they're building is, to your point, like it could at this point just be very basic FAQ bots, but they don't see it that way. And so and I also would warn them to be cautious of like there's like huge telecommunications companies right now that are, selling, kits to build their own AI and to different industries. And that's going to take higher, more time, more lift to get something basic. And so right now I think it's really determining where they're going to build, where they're going to buy, but also where they're going to get the highest value and where there's higher feasibility, right? Where there's the speed of time to get results is important as well. That's something I would look at. And also just what to look for in a partner. Because if you're rolling AI and you don't have the human judgment in the right place for a credit union, that can bring a lot of risk, especially in just reputational risk. So I would say that's something to look out for.
Yeah, I'm not personally aware of any credit union that's making a big push to build its own AI. certainly, I know quite a few that are tinkering with building little things inside, but I don't know anybody who's saying we're going to do this solo. It's
Yeah, and maybe what I'm saying is the the building can look differently. I think, you're comparing it to like a Bank of America, but even within the tools that we have, there could be some level of building itself. If it's not even, maybe it's with a partner, but the level of effort it takes to roll something out can be compared to building when you have partners that can make that a lot easier.
okay. That's actually a good question. As I always ask technology people, okay, so how much credit union says I want to do this, I want to go. How much staff resource do they do need to make it work, and how much staff resource do you replace? I'm not saying eliminate the jobs. It's just some tech projects you need like 12 people to do it internally. Others, half of a person.
Yeah. So for this, when we're talking specifically about voice AI for member service, we like to say that it's around 12 weeks, let's say, to roll something like this out with primarily the person that's going to be involved is your, business lead of member service because they're really curating a member experience. So it's less technical than you imagine. At least with Glia, that's the case because we are, very thoughtful about making these products just quick to turn around. We're also giving you the resources. So you're very thoughtful in the strategy and how you roll it out, but that you get the quickest value. I would say that's how I would position it. But again, on the other side, when I was talking about building is there are other alternatives where you are given a lot more to build with less resources. And so asking the questions about, what resources am I going to get? How long is it going to take? How are you maintaining it? What does the product roadmap look like? Is super important, right? I think those are things that we want to know. And of course, the security and where you can build the responses for your AI.
So I'm a credit union. I signed the contract today. You're saying in approximately 12 weeks I can be live.
Yes,
Cool. With minimum staff involvement on my part.
correct. So that's a lot of the work that we've done. If you can imagine, like to your point, Bank of America is probably, has AI staff on board, right? It could be AI scientists, conversational consultants, different staff that is building the AI. And credit unions can't afford to do that. And so we've taken that upon ourselves and have focused only on credit unions and banks. And so that makes it very different because we've already identified what questions are going to be asked, the 10,000 different ways one question can be asked, the potential responses, and a way for you to continually manage that. And another thing to consider too is, AI is moving so quickly that we want also an AI partner that is going to evolve just as fast. So once
Yeah,
you make your investment,
yeah, I've been following technology for a long time, 45 years, I think. And I've never seen anything move this fast. And what's fueling it is the jet fuel of massive amounts of money, money I've never seen flow into Silicon Valley, and nor have they seen it. But that actually is buying a lot of brains, et cetera, et cetera.
yes. And, when I think about credit union specifically, I do think Glia brings parity when it comes to AI for when it comes to member service. I think we're getting access to technology, or credit unions are getting access to technology that maybe they couldn't if we didn't have a partner that has taken care of a lot of the build for them already.
As I've said, I think trying to build this stuff internally is crazy for almost all credit unions, maybe all.
Yes.
You got to bring a partner in, preferably a partner that's worked with credit unions before, so it understands the cult-like aspect of credit unions and doesn't get freaked out by it. So
Yeah, I think knowing, which industries they have created the AI for is important. Because if it's 10 different industries, you're going to get something very basic and the level of effort that you have to put into building these bots is pretty high. And I think that's the distinction when you and I are talking about, like, I don't expect any credit union to build their own AI, but with certain partners, they will be building a lot more than they would with others. So asking the right questions about the level of effort is super important.
No, the reason I was asking questions about that is I've talked to many CIOs, and a question they ask before they sign on the dotted line with a vendor is, what's my staff commitment to make this thing real?
Yeah.
And if the number is too big, they don't say get the hell out of here, but they say, why don't you get back to me in like 6 months and we'll resume this conversation.
Yeah.
That's not a no exactly, but it's, man, I don't got the staff to do this right now. When your answer is, well, you don't really need much at all, well, that's cool. That certainly eliminates that hurdle.
Yeah. And the other part that we're not talking about right now is just how do you maintain it? How do you continually get value? How do you optimize it? And so that's another reason why I, chose to partner with Glia, because they had, dedicated resources to my account to meet on a regular basis to discuss areas of opportunity, and they would provide thorough recommendations. And so to me, that's a true partner, someone that is talking about the value, reporting on value, and letting me know when and how I can optimize. I think that's super important. And also that they're going to continue, innovate, and evolve the product for
Yeah, I'm
us.
assuming that you continue to update the product. I ask because I'm a paid Gemini subscriber, and I get quite a few notifications from Google say, "Hey, you got this new option here. You want to use it? It's included, no extra charge." And the frequency of these updates is staggering now.
No, I think right now the only thing I would add is for our credit unions right now, I know we are facing a lot of competition, right? We're facing a lot of competition from fintechs, non-traditional banks, also larger banks that have more resources for AI. And so I think right now for us to continue, being people who help people, it's, the right question is not if, but when and how. And I say that because I've spoken to some credit unions that are still considering, if this is the right thing for their organization. But I think for the movement, for its resiliency, we need to embrace it. And we have a lot of resources to help with the strategy at Glia as well, if that's what they're looking for right now.
Well, also, I mean, a lot of credit unions are saying, well, about a lot of technology, credit unions will say, well, I'm not really sure my membership is ready to embrace this. Your membership has already embraced a lot of AI. I mean, they're asking ChatGPT questions, and ChatGPT is answering the questions for them, and they're believing it, for heaven's sakes. I mean, all kinds of people on cell phones, on computers, you name it, they are beginning to use AI just for normal stuff, everyday stuff. I ask Alexa every morning, what's the weather? Dumb question, but she always tells me. So.
Yes, I believe everyone's exposed to AI right now. I can tell you my 6-year-old uses it as well. So I think right now is everyone just knowing that everyone is exposed to AI, and how can we use it to continue helping people within our credit unions.
Before we go, think hard about how you can help support this podcast so we can do more interviews with more thoughtful leaders in the credit union world. What we're trying to figure out here in these podcasts is what's next for credit unions. What can they do to really, really, really make a difference in the financial scene? Can't all be mega banks, can it? It's my hope it won't all be mega banks. It'll always be a place for credit unions. That's what we're discussing here. So figure out how you can help. Get in touch with me. This is rjmcgarvey@gmail.com. Robert McGarvey, again, that's rjmcgarvey@gmail.com. Get in touch. We'll figure out a way that you can help. We need your support. We want your support. We thank you for your support. The CU 2.0 podcast.